Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. So hi everyone. We've just seen some presentations about the research that's really done at BIGR, but now we're going to talk a little bit about how it is from a student's perspective. So me and Diede will talk a little bit about what projects we are currently doing, how that is, and some general things that are nice to know about BIGR and life here. So yeah, I'll start with a short introduction about myself. I'm Brian. I'm a master's student in biomedical engineering at TU Delft. I'm in my second year and I'm doing the track medical physics. So that's why I'm interested in BIGR and their projects. I've been here for my research or my internship, which turned out to be a research internship. And I started in September and I'm just pretty much finished. I'll finish next week. And I've been doing my project in the imaging genetics group. That's the group from Kennedy, who will also present later. So be sure to check that out. So about my project. What I've really been doing is I set out to research the prediction of dementia risk using MRI and genetics. So a little bit of a backstory about dementia. So it's a really big disease. So a lot of people are suffering from it. At the moment, like 50 million worldwide, but that's predicted to grow to 130 million in 2050. So it's really an issue that's only gonna grow and become more hard to deal with. So about dementia, it's caused by multiple conditions. So dementia really is an overarching term for memory loss or cognitive decline that really starts to affect your daily life. And this can be caused by Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease, where Alzheimer's disease causes like the majority of cases, like 60 to 80%. And in normal healthy people, when you age, your brain starts to shrink a little bit and cells die. But as you can see here in the image, in severe Alzheimer's disease, your brain volume will decline like a lot, and many brain cells will die. So there's a link there between aging and Alzheimer's and ultimately dementia. So this is a topic in research, and actually there's been some relatively recent research done here at the BIGR group, also by a master's student who in the end got published. And he researched a way to use deep learning to predict age using MRI images, so from gray matter. And that turned out to be a biomarker for the risk of dementia. And my research my project builds off from that, and we try to use MRI and genetics to directly predict the risk of dementia, and give like a prediction or a number to this risk. So it's MRI and also using genetics. So what did I really do during my project? So at the start, a lot of it was already done, or there was already research done before. So MRI images were present, were ready. Stuff that I did at the start was getting event time data. So really the data that the people got Alzheimer's disease or dementia, and really getting genetic information from people. And we had to look at multiple data sets because we didn't only use a data set from the USMC here, but also one that is from the US and Canada, just to have more scans, more data. Like I'd say, the final half or the final third of my project, I've been really working a lot on the deep learning model, doing simulations to check if the model really works, and then doing actual measurements in the end, which I'm actually currently still doing. So here's an image of like a model we use. So as you can see here, we start with this MRI image, and we use a convolutional neural network to really condense this image down to like a row of numbers. And then we try to add other information here, so gender, age, and genetic information, and try to make a prediction of it here in the end. So what my project really was about in the end was to see how do these other inputs influence your performance, and how can we look at these architectures here and maybe change some things and improve on the research that was already done. So as I said, I'm still doing some of the final measurements. So what I can show you is how the predictions actually look like. So out of the prediction comes really like a number. And here you can see some results for like a test set of one of the best performing models. And here on the left, you see a histogram of risk scores, which are all relative. So it doesn't really matter if it's negative or positive. But the thing that does matter is that all the people who end up developing dementia in green are at the right. So they have a high risk score. But as you can see, still some healthy people are classified as high risk, which of course isn't what we want in the end. And on the right, you can see how we use this risk score, because we can use this risk score and combine it with like a baseline risk using some of the training data. I won't go into the methods because that's too much time for now. But you can end up seeing that the true survival here in green, so the real percentage of the people that has gotten dementia, can be roughly predicted by this model. But you still also see that some of these dementia, so this is only for the people that get dementia in the end. But yeah, you still see that like some of the people don't or are not predicted to get dementia, while in real life they do. But yeah, this is more of a showing that this is possible relatively well. So something else I can show you is a visualization of what this model actually does. So because it looks at these MRI images, you can show where what regions in this MRI image it gives the most importance to. So shown are some brain templates and overlaid high importance regions. And you can see that those are also really concentrated in the brain. And these are actually really similar to the ones from the previous research on age prediction. And that, of course, makes sense since we use that similar model. But that's also important here. And here you can see it in 3D. I think it looks less nice in Teams since it's a recording. But yeah, this is like the most important brain regions that contribute. So this is what I had to say about my project. Now Diede will also share something about her project, and after that we'll talk about the general things here with life at BIGR.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I can.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Can you go back? Yeah, great. Okay, so my name is Diede, and I'm a technical medicine student. And that means that I'm a study that's both focused on technical solutions for medical problems. And this is a joint degree with TU Delft, Erasmus MC, and the LUMC. And I am mostly focused on imaging and intervention. And right now I'm doing my master thesis with Esther at the neuroimaging group. And my time is divided into research, but also in clinical experience. And I will tell something more about that a little later. And I started more recently in October, and I will be done around May. And so I will first explain the research part of my thesis. And that's about craniosynostosis. Craniosynostosis is a congenital disorder in which one or more skull sutures close prematurely. And skull sutures are spaces between the skull bones that are present to allow for an easy birth and to allow for the brain to grow in the years after birth. And these skull sutures are commonly closed before a child reaches the age of 18, but in some children it happens in birth. And so you can see in the image here, there are several different skull sutures that can be affected. And this results into different deformations of the skull and the brain and the face. And so I'll show you an example. Here you see a skull that is elongated, and you can also see it in the MRI scan that it looks quite long and not that round. And another example here is a little less visible in the skull, but inside the brain you can see that the ventricles, which hold the brain fluid, are very enlarged. And this is something that's also common in craniosynostosis. And apart from these deformations, these children often have behavioral and cognitive problems. And the disorder is often associated with different syndromes. And the treatment for this is maintaining intracranial pressure, which is the pressure in the brain, and performing surgery in the first year of life. However, it is still unknown what exactly is the influence of surgery on the brain abnormalities themselves, and also what the influence is on the behavioral and cognitive problems, as some children do improve from surgery, but some don't. Yes. And it's very important to know which children do improve with surgery and which don't. So we want to achieve a better understanding of the disease process. And to do this, we use advanced MRI techniques. And this is mainly to optimize treatment and to avoid unnecessary treatment. And several different advanced MRI techniques we use are high resolution MRI to assess the volume and the different regions, arterial spin labeling in the middle. This is to assess the brain perfusion. And then we also have diffusion tensor imaging, and this is to assess the microstructure of the brain. Yes, and to analyze these images, we want to look at the different brain regions. As you can imagine, there's different skull sutures that can close, and so there's also different brain regions that can be affected. So we want to know what exactly happens in each brain region. And to do this, we can use an atlas, as you can see in the image here. And these atlases are often divided into gray matter, white matter, and CSF, so the fluids of the brain. And you can see how that looks in 3D. The problem is that these atlases are based on healthy MRI scans of healthy children. So they're very different from the craniosynostosis scans. As you can see in this image, the healthy scan looks very different. And so what we need to do is transform the healthy image so it fits on the craniosynostosis image. And to do this, there are several different registration methods you can use. And so you can use non-rigid registrations, such as translating or rotating the image. But that, as you can imagine, would not be enough to compensate for these differences. So you can also use non-rigid registration, and then you can change the voxels independently from each other. So as you can see in the down right corner of the image, you can actually change the whole image, so the shape can actually change. And to do this, there are several methods. So you can use, for example, conventional or deep learning methods. And I won't go too deep into these, but the conventional method, as you can see here, it's based on a fixed image, that's the craniosynostosis scan, and a moving image, the atlas scan. And then you look at the similarity between these scans, and you want to optimize this similarity. So you go into an iterative process in which you look at the similarity, you optimize that, and then you transform the image until you reach a certain level of, okay, these images overlap pretty well. But you can also do this by directly evaluating the optimization by a deep learning algorithm. And then you train on a set of available scans. So you don't have to go into the iterative process. And these are two methods I'm going to evaluate and compare with each other to see how well they work in craniosynostosis cases. And then I'm going to look at, what works well, what doesn't work well, what are the bottlenecks in this registration process, and then I'm going to improve it. Yes. So then we'll tell you something about the more general parts. of working at BIGR.
Yes. So, yeah, I'll tell. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I forgot to tell you about the clinical experience. So there's another really important part of my thesis, and that is the clinical experience. So half of my time is focused on the research, half on the clinical experience. And the clinical experience is mainly on radiology. So what you can do there, for example, is medical image acquisition, process medical images, and prepare multidisciplinary consultations. So you can really learn how images are used, how they are acquired, and how radiologists look at them from a medical perspective. And then you can also gain clinical experience on plastic surgery. So you can attend patient consultations, but also attend and assist during surgery. And it's really nice that during this COVID period, I can still gain some clinical experiences in those fields. So that's really nice.
Yes. So some more general things about work at life at BIGR. So you see here the Erasmus Medical Center, and actually the BIGR office is located right here at the top, or we're on 2 floors, the 25th and 26th floor. And here we come to my favorite part of being a student at BIGR, and that is the view you get of the whole city when you are actually at the office. It's especially nice during sunset or sunrise, and I really enjoy to sometimes just look outside, calm down a little bit when code doesn't work or stuff like that. Yeah, so I think this is really nice, the location. But about that location, how often will you actually be here? So of course we're in COVID-19 pandemic times now, and well, personally, and I think this is also the guideline for everyone, you can be at the office like once or twice a week. And yeah, sometimes it's really helpful if you just want to be a bit more productive or get some stuff done. But as always, when you're here, just follow the COVID rules, wear a face mask since this is a hospital. And you should always discuss this with your supervisor so they know how many people there are. And you should also talk to them because we use this booking system, which you'll eventually, if you are here, hear more about. But we also work from home a lot. So we can have access with the Erasmus network and Erasmus computers, which works really well. And you can just work from home and do everything as well. We use Slack, as you are now also using or will use in the afternoon. And we do a lot of, and in Slack, you can just easily message your supervisors or other people in your group, which is really nice. And we do everything through video meetings. It's been a while since I had a real life meeting, but everything works fine, and certainly not a reason to not have your internship or thesis here at BIGR.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how a week looks at BIGR. So as Brian said, you have several meetings online, and almost every week there's a BIGR seminar. This is on Monday. And during this seminar, there are different people that tell us about their research, and those are often very interesting to learn more about. And then, of course, you have meetings with your supervisors. For me, that's on Monday morning. Monday is kind of my meeting day. And then you can talk about how your research is progressing, and you can also just ask for help or ask questions. And then for me, I have another meeting on Monday, the neuro meeting. So we talk about all projects related to the neural imaging analysis. And for each subgroup in BIGR, there are different meetings for such well-focused groups, really. So for me, that's neuro. And you can see that 2 days in my week are red. Those are the days on which I gain my clinical experience. And then the days which are blue are the days on which I gain my research. So on the red days, I go to the clinic. And for example, what I could do is on Tuesday morning process medical images, then go to a multidisciplinary consult in the afternoon, and maybe later on the day assist during surgery. This really depends on the day, of course, what the schedule is in the clinic. And of course, it's very flexible. So you can also interchange between your research and clinical days. That's not really a problem. And then, for example, the rest of your days, you write your research proposal or you do your other research, depends on where you are in your process. And then once per month, on Thursday, I have a master meeting. So we actually have a meeting with both clinical and technical supervisors. So you really have the integration of the medical side into your project. And then, for example, on Friday, I have some other clinical experiences, such as the polyclinic or, stuff like that. And some people also have some university subjects, so that would also be possible. It's not just about deep learning. There are really many different aspects into your research at BIGR. So you can learn a lot of different things. For example, literature research, your research proposal, pre-processing the data, then the actual deep learning, and you also have to evaluate it, of course. So there's really a lot of different things you can learn about. And then you also work, for example, with the CPU cluster, GPU cluster, or the XNAT database in which clinical images are included. So those are also really nice skills to have, to know how you work with a cluster and how you process images from a clinical perspective. And there's also some fun at BIGR. So we have different events, for example, a pub quiz, a board game night, and BIGR lunches. And these are actually events that are still going through, even though we have Corona. And for example, next week we have a pub quiz, and some weeks ago we had a board game night. So that's really nice. Yeah, it's all online. Yeah. Okay. And so there are many reasons for studying at BIGR. It's very practical. As for my project, you have a lot of clinical inputs. You have a lot of time to learn. You have your own project, so you're really the boss of your own project, actually. And there's a lot of freedom and flexibility. And also, there are so many people with different expertises in BIGR. So there's also always a person who you can ask for more information or for more help. So that's really nice. And I think that's all we wanted to tell you. So I hope you may find a nice project at BIGR. I think it will be a really nice experience for you. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you